Greetings YouTube, my name is Alex and I am the Reef Dork. And today it's time for another update of the old nano tank, the Aqua One Mini Reef 120. Now it's been about 5 weeks since the last update, so the tank is now 3 months old. In the last update I said I'd slow down, obviously that hasn't happened, I've gone full steam ahead instead, so there's a lot to get through. And because of that I'm going to do a new format today, so I'm going to talk you through equipment, my parameters, what they're doing, livestock updates to that, new purchases, how corals are growing, all those sorts of things, and then anything else and future plans. So let's get straight into it with a look at the equipment. Now the first thing for me to tell you about is that I've made myself a coral dipping station. Now I haven't dipped any of these corals that have gone in there, and I've decided that's an accident waiting to happen, so I need to do something about that. So a very simple one, let's get a bit closer. It's just a little plastic tub. 2 litres of water goes up to about there, which is going to cover any coral. And inside we've got a cheapo power head, about 2,000 litres per hour, and a little egg crate base that I can put all the frags in. Frags will just sit there, the coral dip will do its job, and I'll be using Coral RX Pro, and that'll work quite nicely. The plan of having 2 litres in there is so 2 litres of water will cover the coral entirely, and it means I won't have to use too much of the coral dip. So that should be quite good. Nice and cheap way of getting that sorted. Now I have dipped one of my corals so far. It had a hitchhiker on it that you would have seen last time round, and I'll come on and tell you how that's getting on in the livestock section. As far as existing equipment goes, I have now emptied and cleaned my algae reactor. I've done a video of that, so I'll put a little card up there you can go and look at, and I was really pleased with it. It was actually quite easy to clean, and it pulled out a load of Cheeto as well, so it's done a really good job, and I'll tell you what that's doing on the parameters in a minute. I've also changed the heater. Let's cut to a quick video of me doing that. Now I didn't actually want to change the heater, but I smashed my water change heater, so I decided to use this to do that and upgrade the heater to a better one in the tank. So out goes the old 300 watt one, and in comes a 200 watt heater. This time it's a titanium heater made by Shago. So it's titanium, which means it won't break, and it's made by Shago, which means it won't go wrong ever. Really happy with that, link in the description. And I've switched to a bigger Algae Magnet. Now this thing is absolutely incredible. I had this on my last tank, it's the Tunzi Care Magnet. I'll put a link in the description so you can check it out. It is amazing. Let's take a look. So up until recently I've been using one of these floating algae magnets. We've all got them and they are rubbish. They're perfectly good for doing the standard algae, but when the going gets tough and it's the ground on stuff, they're no good. Look at it, it's not touching the sides on that. I would have had to get a credit card in there ordinarily. However, I've now upgraded to this, and this is what I had on my last tank, my 4-foot tank, and it is incredible. It just eats through the hard algae so easily, and in fact you can see the wrasse coming over. He's wondering if there's going to be any nice morsels for him to eat. Sorry mate, there aren't, but it burns through stuff. I did actually have the nano version of this for this tank, and that's okay, but it's not that great, so I decided to chuck this back in there and destroy everything. Look, it even gets through coralline. This thing is amazing. Do yourself a favour, go and buy one. Link in the description. You can also get it from your LFS. Go and get one today. And for the last piece of equipment news, we have to come down to the sump, and as you can see, bang in the middle, I have put in a phosphate reactor. Phosphate was going up a bit, so I've put some rower in there, and when you tumble rower in a phosphate reactor, it does a fantastic job. So it has reduced the phosphates. I'd like not to have that in for too long, to be honest. And I'd like my Cheeto reactor to do all the phosphate work, but we'll see how it gets on, and it's not really causing any problems, so that's in there for now. And now the last piece of equipment I've got to tell you about is not in the tank at all. It is upgrades to my reverse osmosis system. Now, up until recently, I just had what's on the far left, so the 2-stage sediment filter and the membrane and the DI pod. I have added now the colour change resin pods. On the right hand side there's 2 of them. Hi Fred Titmus. And up to the top right hand corner you can see the booster pump. Now this is where it gets interesting. The booster pump is brilliant. I'll show you what what rate the water comes out without the booster pump on, and then what it's like with the booster pump on. here is without. So that's okay, coming at a reasonable rate. And in 10 minutes that will produce just under half a litre of water. Now let's turn on the booster pump. Alexa, turn on booster.
Okay.
Wait for it. And there you go, look at that. A constant stream. Suddenly a lot of water is coming out. And in theory that should improve the rejection rate as well, so I will be using less water and producing a lot more. Alexa, turn booster off.
Okay.
Now the nerdy Alexa thing is the Wemo plug, smart plug, which is up there. I'll put a link to the description in the description to that if you want, if you're interested. But the main thing is that booster pump, which I got from Osmotics, and with that on, I get in 10 minutes I get 2 litres of water. That's 4 times what I was producing before, and with 2 extra DI pods, this thing is going to do me really well, and my water quality is going to be pucker. So that's equipment done. Let's move on to my parameters. Now to test nitrate, I use the NIOS kit. I find that's really easy to read, so it gives you a nice clear reading. And to test phosphate, I use the ELOS high resolution. This is the only one I trust for doing the really low numbers of phosphate. In terms of alkalinity, I'm lazy, so I use the Alk Checker by Hannah. It's brilliant and it makes life a lot easier. Now nitrate has stabled off and is about 3 parts per million, so that's doing really well. Pretty much where I want it to be. It might be a little bit low, in fact it might be down to about 2. And phosphate is down from last time round. Last time I think it was at 0.11 and actually it crept up shortly after that. But I put the rower of Phosphate Reactor in and it came right down to 0.03, but now it's back up to 0.06. And it is increasing ever so slightly, but then I've been feeding quite heavily lately and chucking in quite a lot of Reefroids. So we'll see if that stables out over the next few weeks. In terms of alk, I did think that my alk would be a problem because of something I've added, which I'll come on to in a second, but it's fine actually. It's stable at around 7.3 to 7.5, and it's been that way for ages. Happy days. So now on to the really interesting part anyway, and this is Livestock. I've got 2 new additions this month and they are fantastic, so let's get straight to it. So first things first, here's the new fish. He's right in the middle there and he's going off to the side now, but he is a silver belly wrasse. If he will stay still, there you go. You can see his nice silver belly. Now I am now 50% wrasse at the moment. I've got the 2 halicories, that guy, the radiant on the right, and the Solon wrasse, red-headed fairy wrasse. Just because I thought it was quite good fun, here's a quick clip of the Solon wrasse eating out of my hand. But back onto the silver belly wrasse, he's in there to do a job with nasties, with pests like flatworms and nudies, that sort of thing. And also, he's in there to eat pyramid snails. Why would I be worried about pyramid snails? Let's have a look. This is why I might be worried about pyramid snails. This is a massive, about 5-inch across tridacna clam. It's a maxima and it is stunning. I was obsessing about it for a few weeks and finally decided to go ahead with it. Let's see from another angle. So there's its mouth at the back, and you'll have to excuse everyone for getting in the way, all the show-off fish. But I think that clam is absolutely amazing. I can't quite figure out why not everybody has a clam. They're actually not that hard to keep from what I understand. They are a bit of an alk sponge, but I think anyone with an SPS tank, you're doing yourself an injustice if you don't have one of these. It's gorgeous. And in fact, let's see if I can get a nice top-down shot. Here we go, now look at that thing. It's absolutely spectacular. See if I can get a tiny bit closer. In fact, there's a wrasse coming to say hello. Look at it. That is just absolutely beautiful. And I'm absolutely delighted with it. Now, when I say I can't understand why not everybody has one, they are actually quite expensive, as it turns out. And this one cost me about 160 quid because it's quite a large one. But for me, it's well worth it. I think it's so good looking. And it's got its own little party trick as well. And this adds a real wow factor for me. Check this out when I cover the light. Whoos. There it goes. Retracts away because it thinks there's a shark above it or whatever, and instantly comes back. Now that on its own is incredible, and when I've had friends round and I've shown them that, they thought it is amazing. So I absolutely love this thing. Now let's have another quick top-down look at a couple of the other zoas. These ones there are mohawks. You can't really see them, but they kind of look like the Milky Way. They are spectacular. Some nice speckled rainbows there that are spreading. And there's my LPS gardens, the little bit sad looking acans on the right hand side, and the slightly small euphyllias on the left. And of course the Zoa pièce de résistance, Mount Cracker Zoa. God knows how many zoas I've got on there now. I've added a couple more on that white bit on the end there that you can just about see, and on the wide bit on the end there that you can't really see, but they're starting to spread really nicely and I'm quite pleased with them. So all in all, it is fair to say I am now of the opinion that that clam is the star of the show. It is quite expensive, but actually it's only really the same kind of price as you pay for a decent size SPS frag, or SPS colony should I say, and it just looks amazing. I'm absolutely delighted with it. And as you can see, actually the tank is starting to grow out a little bit as well, and it looks a little bit busier because as well as the clam, I've also added a new piece of rock. Now this is the new piece of rock in question, and let me show you what I did to it to get to this stage. So I had to do a fair bit of drilling. Tile drill bits is what I used, and this actually took quite a long time. It was really hard work drilling through this stuff, and it only worked because it's quite thick. So you can see at the bottom there are 3 bits that all join together, and if it weren't for that, drilling in just one stick of this branch wouldn't have worked at all. The easier bit was cutting down the frag plug. That was quite easy. Then put a bit of super glue on and stick it in place, and it looks quite nice and neat and tidy, and of course that is the whole idea. This is what it looks like in a tank. This was before, of course, I put the clam in place, and I've ended up moving it all around a bit, but you get the idea. I think it looks really good, and it's a nice little piece, so we'll see how that gets on over time. So the plan with that is to let the rainbow zoas grow out over that entire thing and completely cover it. I might even be able to start fragging it then, we'll see. But I think that will look really cool, and that's a little experiment I've been wanting to do for a while. Just get one piece of rock and cover it in one particular zoa. And in fact, I've also done that with a rock that you can see to the left, which I'll zoom in closer on now. Only this time that is with mohawk zoas. Now they don't look that great under the whites, I will admit, but under blues they look spectacular. And this is going to look really nice when it's a nice little dome covered in nice bright glowing zoas. Now the last update I've got to give you in terms of livestock is this little guy here. Now let me see if I can zoom in a tiny bit. There we go. Right, so you can see bang in the middle of the screen now that little brown bit, that is what I think is a peanut worm. I mentioned that on the last time round. I wasn't that concerned by it, but I decided I wanted to dip it anyway. So that thing is now dead, and I'm hoping that the coral might start to look a bit better and spread out a bit now it's on its own. Only time will tell, and I don't think it was pestering it before, but it didn't do any harm, so let's see how it goes. So that's more or less it for now then. I've got a couple more bits to tell you about, and this is under any other business. So first off, coralline algae is starting to spread nicely. I was going to get an urchin last time round, but they eat coralline, and it's starting to spread, so I'm not going to do that. Let's see if we can have a quick close-up look. And there you go, that's it on the outlet pipe, starting to spread really nicely. And you can see on the power head as well, it's really encrusting. And there's also a tiny bit on the back, as you can see as well. There is a little bit on the rocks as well, and in fact, that's my live rock there that you can see it spreading on. And it's starting to look really good. And as I say that, the power head's come back on, so let's back out and go back onto the tripod. So that's it for the current state of affairs. In terms of future plans, I'm pretty much there fish-wise, and I know I said that last time, and I know I probably said it the time before, but I mean it this time. 6 fish in a small tank is probably all right, and my parameters are nice and stable. But what I do want to do is add a few more zoas to Mount Cracker Zoa. I want some blue-eyed blonde bitch, Valentine's Day massacres, and some Gatorades. Haven't been able to find them so far, but when I do, I'll chuck them up there. So that's it for this time. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed it, give me a thumbs up and subscribe. And until next time, I have been the Reef Dork. Thank you, good night.